Everybody, welcome into our living rooms and our backyards here as we get ready for a reunion talk with our 2016 softball team, or at least a small portion of it. Thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. For those of you who don't know, this 2016 softball team for CSU Bakersfield did win the Western Athletic Conference Tournament, earning CSUB its first ever Division I berth into the NCAA tournament. And they're a group that we are very proud of and have reached some of the highest accomplishments. So we thought we'd get them together and just sort of sit down for some discussion about that season and the events leading up to it and the WAC tournament itself. So introducing, as we go around the circle here as it's on my screen, in the upper left corner, I have Amber Mills, who that year in 2016 was a senior pitcher. She started half of the team's games that year, posting a 3.03 ERA. She pitched 17 innings in 3 games at the WAC tournament, including a 4-hit shutout against New Mexico State in the championship game. Amber is originally from Fresno, California, and I believe she recently got engaged this March. Is that correct, Amber? Yes, congratulations. And Amber is currently working as a, I believe it's an ultrasound tech. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a cardiac ultrasound tech at Julea Delta.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. We appreciate all your help, especially in the light of the coronavirus situation and being a part of the healthcare organizations. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Next, down below and to the left, we have Sydney Nordstrom, is it now?
Yes.
Nordstrom, but back then folks might have known her as Sydney Raeber. Sydney was also a senior that year along with Amber. She was an outfielder, but she also came in to close out a lot of games and give a lot of help in the circle in relief. And in fact, she recorded a school record 5 saves that year, still stands to this day, including 2 saves at the WAC tournament. Sydney's originally from Hanford, California, and she's currently wrapping up her registered nursing program, which she's hoping to finish in December. Is that right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yep.
And again, another person going into the healthcare field. We're very, very thankful for you and for all those who are doing that. Down in the middle of my screen, we have Crissy Buck-Ziegler, head coach of the women's softball team. She is wrapping up her 9th season. And for those of you who are not familiar, I'm not sure who of you aren't that you're watching this, but Coach was a standout athlete at UCLA, where she helped the Bruins win a national championship in 1999. And she also earned a degree in history. Is that right, Coach?
Yeah, if history serves me correct, yeah, I think so.
Well, I would hope it would. Moving over to my right, and in the bottom right corner, we have Julea Cavazos, who was a sophomore outfielder back in 2016. She's originally from Temecula, California. During that WAC tournament run, she had a breakout season, leading the team with a .366 batting average on her way to first-team all-conference honors. And more recently, she has been working as an EMT, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And you told me recently that you're working on, you're doing interviews to try to be a fireman, right?
Yes, that's correct. I have my interview next week, so.
Awesome. Good luck to you for that.
Thank you.
And then last but certainly not least, up in my upper right corner, we have Joanna Larios, who back in 2016 was a junior catcher. Jo had a up and down season offensively, but she had a big moment in the WAC tournament and caught pretty much every single inning behind the plate that year for the runners. More originally, Jo is from Holtville, California. She also got engaged recently back in December. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're working as a corrections officer?
Yes, correct. Here in Arizona.
Out in Arizona? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you again for helping out. There's a lot of people who are in healthcare or, the police force kind of work, and especially in the light of what's going on today, we appreciate all of you guys for being either in that field or working towards that field, and again, for joining us here tonight. So we'll move into our first talking point of tonight, and I kind of just want to break it open for you guys to give your thoughts, but we'll talk first about leading up to the 2016 season, because everybody, for the most part, will remember you guys winning the WAC tournament, but a lot of people might have forgotten the backstory of what happened at the 2015 tournament. So let me kind of refresh everybody. The 2015 season in general was one of the best seasons in CSUB's Division I history. And it led you to a great run at the 2015 WAC tournament as well. In the first round, you came back from a 5-0 hole against UMKC to win that one. Then you shocked perennial champion New Mexico State with a 10-2 run rule victory to advance to the final day. But when you got to the championship game, you had to match up against New Mexico State again. And this time around, the Aggies were able to take a pair of hard-fought games, 7-4, and then a slugfest 18-10 in the last game. And they eventually did beat you guys, winning the championship in 2015. All four of you were members of that team. And so I was kind of wondering, how did that loss, that blow of being so close yet so far make you guys feel? And Sydney, why don't you take this first, and then if anybody else wants to add on, you're welcome to.
Ending that season, it was a great season. And obviously coming in that championship game and pitching, not having very many innings under my belt, I wanted Coach to call my number, and when she did, I didn't step up to the plate. But that definitely shaped my mentality for the next season, that's for sure. And, seeing the seniors and how hard they fought all that season, and then to see how they felt that championship game, knowing that we were that close to winning, I didn't want that to happen for us as seniors, so just lit a fire. I didn't want to feel that way again. I just wanted to come back stronger the next season so I could help my team to victory.
And Coach, what would you say that after that loss, what was the message that you were trying to preach to your team there?
I think that whole 2015 was actually kind of fun, that WAC tournament, because we went on a very superstitious run, that everything that we had to do had to be a certain way. How we got on the bus, how we got off the bus, what we ate, how we sat, how we warmed up, everything had to be a routine of superstition, because that was the only way we understood why we were in that moment that we were in. Instead of them really taking credit for what they were able to accomplish. And at the end of that game, leading up to the second championship game, I should say, Kelsey Monroe was our top pitcher at the time. She had seen New Mexico, I think, 4 times that year. And we knew she was pretty much out of gas. We knew that they had seen her so many times. They had scouted her. So we were going back and forth actually between Amber and Sid, and going back and forth on that and saying, okay, who do we go with? And Sid's number was called. And as much as she said, I didn't step up to the plate, how she competed actually helped us develop how she was going to be in 2015. So, in 2016, it helped us kind of revamp who she was going to be as a pitcher. And I think it helped Amber kind of reestablish who she was going to be in 2016 as well. But that message they were so upset after the game. They're sitting there crying, and I'm like, okay, they're crying, but they're mad. They were crying and mad. That was ours. I'm like, no, nothing's given to you in this game. No, Coach, that's ours. And I'm like, okay, well, finally you all are starting to understand the vision that I'm trying to sell you, and not so much sell you, but tell you what you could accomplish. And I said, okay, if that's yours, then you better start working today for what you want for the next season. And like Sid said, it was kind of celebrating the 3 seniors we had, Ashley Carter, Madison Bundy, and Kelsey Monroe. We tried to celebrate them, but in that same moment, I do remember all of them, how upset because of the hard-fought game that we suffered and went through in that 2015 championship game.
Joe, would you say that that's how you felt, like Coach was describing, was mad?
Yeah, we were super upset over it because we knew we were this close to it. We tasted that win already. We already tasted that championship. So I remember being in the bullpen with Ashley Carter, and we're warming up for that second game during the doubleheader. And she said, "This isn't going to be my last game. This isn't going to be my last game." And just the hurt it had for those seniors, because that was it for them. And now, that was it. So I think that's why I was so upset over it. And yeah.
And Julea, as a freshman on that team, the youngest person in this group to be talking, when Coach talks about those seniors from that year, the Madison Bundy, Ashley Carter, Kelsey Monroe, that was a really big part of your guys' lineup every single day. So with them going out and you guys being the next group to have to step up, was there ever any worry that you wouldn't be able to get it done?
In terms of like the 2016 season?
Yeah, moving into the next season.
No, I feel like our seniors set such a good example for us of just laying everything out there and not buying into maybe what people think of us. Because I know in that 2015 tournament, a lot of people were like, what are they doing in the championship game, you know? But, I mean, we were such a scrappy team, and that whole experience definitely made us closer. I mean, we only lost a few players on that from the 2015 team, so we basically got our full team in for the 2016 season. But we went in doing it for those seniors. And I remember us preaching that a lot in 2016, like, do it for the seniors. It's like, it's not about us. It's not about our individual people besides the seniors, because it's their last ride. We got to make it big for them. And so I think that's why going into that year, we were so tight knit and really, really believed in each other and that we were all bought in for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we were successful. But it all stemmed from those seniors from 2015.
So when you talk about moving into the 26th season, the 2016 WAC tournament, as we all know, went your way. But on paper, at least, the 2016 season wasn't the team's strongest. In mid-April, you guys got a sweep at home over Seattle U, so there was some good progress there. But then the team lost its last 6 games of the regular season. And some people might look at that and say that, you know, this team they've run out of magic, they have no momentum. But when you actually looked at those games, you had 3 really hard-fought games against New Mexico State, who would, spoiler alert, you would see them again. And you also had 3 solid games against a good Grand Canyon team. So, Julea, I'll go back to you. With the record that you guys had going into the WAC tournament, did it feel like an uphill battle when you got there, or did you guys feel like you had something better than what people might have expected?
Well, something that we constantly told each other and preached was, like, it's not who starts, it's who finishes. And every single individual on our team was so bought into that. So we always saw it as, okay, we're getting the kinks out. I always like to say, like, getting the bad ones out now, save the good ones later. But we were all positive. We didn't see that as, like, okay, yeah, it's a loss, but does that have to do with the conference tournament? No, you know.
Do you guys remember, and I was in talking about this with Isaac and kind of thinking about all this, do you guys remember going to New Mexico and playing New Mexico State at New Mexico State? And it was a night game and it was televised on Aggie Vision.
How could I forget that?
and I think this moment, Isaac, and one thing that I think about with this team, there was such a letdown from 2015, but there was a letdown fire. It was a lot of mixed emotions going into the season, and they started 2016 off hot. We had our best start ever in program history. And every single game that we lost that season, I think, were by 1 or 2 runs. I think I calculated it was something like 25 games we lost by 1 run in that season. So every game for them was a hard-fought, close game. But that New Mexico State weekend, do any of you, Sid, if you remember, talk about that a little bit, about what was going on that weekend and how that weekend kind of jump-started you guys?
That was our 2015 season.
2016, we go into New Mexico State. We're at New Mexico State playing them on Aggie Vision. We have the game won, and they come back and win again. And we're in the parking lot after the game, and again, this anger comes out. And they were just so mad. I think, Amber, you were mad. You were crying, mad, upset. Sid, I don't know if do you guys remember that at all?
Remember that pretty well. But it mainly came to me more because 2015, like, I didn't play in the WAC championship game, and I took that very hard because I wanted to help the team out, and I just wasn't there mentally, and I understood that at that time. But I took that whole year really hard. So after that game that we lost, I knew like that wasn't going to happen to me again. I'm not going to feel that way again. I'm going to give it my all. And then we went to New Mexico 2016 to play during the regular season. So I already had this little vengeance going on with me that I wanted to prove that I could beat them. Like I had the right pitches and stuff, and my team was going to have my back. And I felt that game that I kind of let go. And that's why I took that really hard. And then I remember even having a conversation with Coach Buck after the game, and she was just saying like, they barely got a piece of us, and that's all going to be gone when we get to the WAC tournament. We're going to see them again. Like, don't worry about it. And that kind of sparks everything back up for us, I think.
Sydney, would you like to add on to that, kind of what you were feeling after that?
Yeah, I just think we had like a completely different fire in us. Like, I feel like, especially for me and Amber, you know, like we kind of were always that team where it was like, it's not about who starts, it's who finishes. But it was kind of always like, well, we'll get them next time, or like there'll be a next time. And then like your senior season, there's really not going to be that many more next time. So for us, it's like, okay, like this is it. We're not going to be the ones on the losing end anymore. You know, like this is it. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So what can we do differently? Like, we need to fine tune some things. We need to figure it out as a team and figure out how to come together as a unit, which I think we really, really, really started to do. Our record may have not shown that towards the end of the season, but our record never meant anything to us. We never were a team that played based on our record. So, yeah.
And Amber, if I could go back to you for a second, we talked about Kelsey Monroe, who I think either the year prior or in 2014 was the WAC Pitcher of the Year. And you were sort of, coming out of the bullpen from time to time and definitely not getting as many looks because of the fact that she was such a great pitcher. So stepping into your senior year in 2016, you really had to pick up the bulk of the work. I mean, you had some help here and there for sure, especially from Sid. But what was that like for you, having to how did you mentally process that and mentally prepare to be the go-to arm?
At first I was a little nervous about it, but like we've already been saying that we take like one inning at a time, one pitch at a time. And that's something that I constantly would tell myself. And I would even put my visor so low that I couldn't see anything around me. I would just focus on Joanna and just be like, tunnel vision. I know my team has my back. Just one pitch at a time. I'm just going to focus on each inning, each second. And that's kind of how I went about it, to kind of keep my nerves and my focus in place.
And what was kind of cool that year, Isaac, is she came into my office. Amber, I can't remember if it was fall or January. I can't remember which time it was. She comes into my office, and it was unsolicited. Amber would come. I'd come in my office if we had a meeting. And she comes into my office and says, "Coach Buck, I need to talk to you." I'm like, okay. What's up? I just want you to know, I'm not going to beat myself anymore. And I go, okay. I mean, as a coach, sometimes you sit there and you're like, okay, words are great. Let's see what the action is. But yet the conviction in her voice, I think what I've learned about athletes is when an athlete says it to you unsolicited, they're going to do everything in their power to achieve whatever it is that they're going to set their mind to. And that's, what the cool backstory about all these guys is that I had to sell them on a vision of Cal State Bakersfield because we didn't have a field. We had a very, sandlot, to say the least. I had to sell them on a vision of, this is what we're going to create. We're going to create this field. And they were, I think that 2015-16 season is when we started getting the foundation of the dugouts, right? And they kind of saw the program growing. So especially Amber and Sid, they were my first ever recruits at CSUB. And selling them on, you're going to be the first to take us to a WAC championship or whatever championship. I think we were part of the PCSC at the time. You're going to make us champions, and we're going to go to a regional. And they bought into that vision. They really did buy into that vision. They didn't know how they were going to be a part of that vision. And that day when Amber came into my office, it was, now I see myself in this vision, and I'm going to make this vision complete. And she really worked really hard on her mental game. And that, I would agree, Amber, that New Mexico State game, it was her flipping switch of, I'm beating them. I can do it. our record really never we can't ever go on a record. And I think that's the coolest thing that people talk about CSUB softball is, especially in the WAC tournament, you could never count us out because we would make some kind of rally. We'd have some kind of comeback. We'd do something special. So teams we're always on edge playing us because we have kind of that magic that could come and bust out at any time.
Joe, question for you. Obviously what Coach Buck's saying here is that especially for a person like Amber, she was able to flip that switch, and it was something that was internal that she did for herself. But I think pretty much every one of us here is very aware of the fact that Coach Buck is known for making fiery and inspirational speeches. So what kind of things would she have been saying to you, if you can recall, or just in general, what kind of things would she have been saying to you guys leading in end of the regular season, leading into the 2016 WAC tournament? And
you
keep
really
it
want to know? I'm just so I mean, Coach Buck was that little fire under us. Like, she always had our back. So the thing she would say was just trust yourself. Like, don't think about what could happen. Think about what you're going to do. Like, never doubt yourself. I think that was my biggest problem in 2015 was doubting myself, doubting what I could do. And in 2016, I kind of flipped that switch. Like, I could, I lived with Sid. So she was that guidance for me. And she truly, like, Sid guided me that entire season. Like, that was probably the best decision I made was living with Sid and being around, her and Maddie Bundy and Ashley Carter. But, like, being honest to myself, I think, was that biggest thing, was going to Coach Buck, like, what can I do to improve? What do I need to do to get that starting position? What do I need to do to, touch the dirt? And she just told me, like, trust yourself, put in the work. And I think we did that. We set up meetings every week. So she probably got tired of me, obviously. And like going into practice early, getting that hitting session in, just one-on-one time. And I think that's what truly, helped me and helped my self-confidence, because that was the biggest thing. That was the biggest switch. And like with Sid and Amber, they're pitcher catcher. We were a battery and we trusted each other, and we kind of knew we knew like what was coming next. And like, I knew when either Sid or Amber were struggling on the mound and, calling that timeout, just clearing our heads, getting our minds right. And I could probably say that was the best connection I had with pitchers, was we were that battery on the field.
Yeah, such an important relationship, pitcher-catcher relationship. And I have a question later for you about that, so we might get back to that a little bit more. But
Okay.
Now let's kind of shift, if you guys don't mind, into the 2016 WAC tournament. We've talked about kind of the season leading up to it and how on paper you might not have looked like you were prepared for it, but deep down inside there was something more, a fire burning. So I'm sure you guys are very familiar with the WAC tournament, but as just a refresher for our folks watching at home, in the first game of the tournament, you played UMKC and you jumped out to an early 4-1 lead. Amber held the Roos to just one run in the first 6 innings, but they started to get to her in the 7th. So in comes Sydney Raeber with no outs and a 1-run lead, and she shuts the door with back-to-back strikeouts and a pop-up to secure the victory, 4-3. Question for you, Julea. You were out there in the outfield at this time, and you had confidence at the plate all year, great year offensively. But can you talk about the confidence you had out there in the outfield, backing up pitchers like Amber and Sydney?
Well, like I said before, like going off of the 2015 season, like we had already had a full year together, so that trust was already there. And with Amber and Sid, like, I looked up to them so much. And so, like, Amber, they both knew that we'd all run through walls for them. And we all saw, like, the hard work that they were putting in every single day. And it was their senior year. So we just wanted it so badly for them. And then I specifically remember whenever Sydney would go in to relieve, I got the, opportunity to be able to go play center field, and I'm like, oh, cool. I get to kind of fill Sid's outfield shoes, and Sid would, I don't know if you remember this, Sid, but she'd like make eye contact with me, and we'd always kind of like lock in, and that was just, it'd give a sense of ease for me, because I'm like, all right, she knows exactly what she's doing. And same with Amber, like you could just see it, the way they carried themselves. They're like, all right, piece of cake, like deal it out, and we got your back. And our team was so good defensively, in my opinion, so it was just so much fun being able to play the outfield behind them. Just like good experience always whenever they're on the mound.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's only four of you plus coach represented here today, but defensively, I think of folks like Alex Simmons at shortstop, Chris Hippo was a vacuum at third that year, and just all across the field, you guys had a great group there. So still on this first game, going over to you, Sid, you come in with this pressure situation, and I think I've heard Coach describe you before as a bulldog. Maybe not the tallest, maybe not the fastest, but just have a little bit extra fight down inside. What was it like in those kinds of situations that would bring the bulldog out in you? How do you think that developed?
Well, so going back to the 2015 season a little bit, after that game, my neck hurt a little bit from, watching those balls go over the fence. But, going into the 2016 season, Coach Pro, she pulled me aside and said, basically, we're limiting you to 3 pitches. You're going to throw a fastball, you're going to throw a rise ball, and you're going to throw a changeup. That's it. And of course, I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way, there's no way I can do that. But all right, if that's what you think I'm going to do, then we're going to do that. And I really bought into that. And if I could beat, them with 3 pitches, then I could do anything, But I kind of like Amber said, you kind of have that tunnel vision. And you really, we made the game so small, I feel like that year. It was 1 pitch at a time. And I knew that my job was to come in and close. So I was able to focus on such a small part of the game. But yeah, just, every single pitch and throwing those rise balls and knowing, I think probably 90% of the pitches I threw that season were rise balls, but being able to climb the ladder and, get them swinging on low rise balls and then being able to climb the ladder, and swing at the higher ones. But it was just a different mentality for me, going back to having Julea in center and my whole team in general, it turned into a complete different mindset, team mindset, which was so different because I've always had confidence in myself. I've always had confidence in my team too, but when you really let go and trust those around you, it's a completely different feeling. And being able to truly connect and honestly believe in each other is just a whole other feeling. And I felt like that season and that WAC championship and those games, we all were just so connected, and it was just, I don't know, I could ramble on and talk in circles all day long. But it was just such an amazing feeling.
And Isaac, she brings up the point I touched on in 2015, how we had our superstitions and how we had to do everything just right. And in that tournament, we were in Seattle and we had vans, and Sydney was the one person that in my van would say, we are not doing one thing the same. We are changing it up every day. We're winning because we're going to win. And I mean, I'm sitting there going, okay, we're going to win. we're legitimately winning because, and it was the one time in my coaching career where I was able to just kind of sit back and watch them play. And I remember having to make that change and bring, Amber was throwing a really good game, doing really well. We knew with their swings how Sid could go in and shut them down. And we just felt confident in making that switch. Amber knew her job. There was never a petty moment of, no, this is my game, coach. No, I can't, you can't take me out. It was, it's Sid's turn now. They're touching me up, make the switch. The tandem that they had together of, yep, now it's your turn. Amber would go out to right, and, they knew that if any moment, if I needed to bring the other one in, they felt so secure in that. And that's one thing that we were laughing about before the call. They were probably one of the most fun groups I ever had to coach because they just bought in to whatever we talked about, whatever we were going to do, they bought in. Sid talked about, I'm going to have 3 pitches. And at first she looked at us like we were crazy, and she's like, okay, if that's what it's going to take to win, okay. Amber, you're going to bust them inside the entire time. Okay. If that's what's going to take to win, that's what I'm going to do. That was the cool thing about all of them, is they just had that mantra that it's not luck, it's not superstition. We're right to be here, and we're going to make this happen.
And so all that buy-in, and it works. First game, you guys get back to the next round. You show up and you have a rematch with the regular season champion, once again, New Mexico State. And this time it goes the same way it did the last time. You guys beat them. It was a great game, though. The offense wasn't quite there in that game. You guys did score a couple of runs in the first inning with an Aggie error helping you out. But then their pitcher, Carissa Donisthorpe, struck out 8 runners while only allowing 3 hits heading into the 7th. Amber pitched 4 more great innings, and then Sydney came in and gets a 3-inning save and a 2-1 victory. Coach, this question is for you. In that game, hopefully you don't remember, but the Aggies stranded 15 runners on base.
I remember.
Did you have any fingernails left after that game?
What I didn't like is I didn't like going to Sydney so early in the game. We had never brought Sydney that early in a game. We knew how many innings she could go. I think 3 was typically your max, right, yeah. Sid? We knew 3 was her max. 4, I was pushing it. And Amber just wasn't. She was on, but she wasn't on. She just wasn't herself. They knew what she was going to throw, and we just made the switch early. And I remember Caitlin, I'm going blank on Caitlin Burt. Caitlin Burt was in left field. She made 9 putouts that game. 9 putouts has to be the most amount of pop fly outs a left fielder's ever caught in the history of the game. And in fact, one from their catcher blew back in. That at that moment when the ball blew back in, I thought we're winning. And I think that was in the 5th. But yeah, Sydney, you were not neither one of you had your best stuff that day. I think, Sid, you were walking people galore that game too.
Yeah, and then, the catcher, when I turned and I watched that ball, I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a home run. Like, what and my dad actually was walking in from the outfield, and he watched it, and he's like, oh, thank God. Yeah, that was a rough one.
Here's a question for you. Maybe this second round game wasn't the best of the season for either Amber or Sid, but at the end of the day, they still got the job done with your help behind the plate, of course. Throughout the season and at the WAC tournament, what did you see from those 2 as pitchers, and I guess your whole pitching staff in general? What was the kind of fight and fire that they brought to every game?
Who was the question for?
For Joe, sorry.
Oh, for me?
Yeah. As their catcher, what did you see?
Catcher.
Wait, can you repeat that? Sorry, Isaac.
Joanna.
All right, so Joe, this question is for you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So, as their catcher, even if this game wasn't their best, what kind of fight and fire did you see out of Sydney and Amber that kind of helped you guys get to this point?
I just knew they were always going to be locked in, and no matter what, they always trusted who was behind them. So they always trusted, like, all the infield, all the outfield. They trusted me, and so I would, call timeout and go up to them and be like, you know what, you got this. Like, just relax. We're going to do this. We got to have your back. And they trusted that. So I think that was the biggest thing, was trust. And Sid and Amber always put in their best, and not just always put in their best, they always tried, and they always believed in themselves, and they knew they're going to get the job done. So they knew the work that they put in at practice was the work that they were going to get on that field. And I could, Sydney's low rise, like I remember the first time because Coach Pro was like, you know what, just try it. And she tried. I didn't even catch the ball. That's how insanely good it was. And I knew that Sid was going to get him with that low rise. I knew Amber was going to get him with that screwball inside or that curveball inside on the lefties. And just believing in them was I can't even explain that team because we all trusted each other and we all believed that we were going to get the job done. And like Julea mentioned in the beginning, like it wasn't who started, it was who finished it. And we truly believed that. And like Coach said, I was in that van and I was very superstitious. I can say that because I listened to the same song before every game. I ate the same thing, and Sid's like, "Oh my God, that doesn't even work!" Like, but Sid and this whole team knew we had it this game. Like, we weren't gonna let it slip away from us this time because we still had that taste from 2015, and we didn't want that same taste in our mouth again.
So you guys get the win in the second round and you advance once again to the championship game. Most people know the story, but let's recall it for those who might not remember. The final game was what you would probably epitomize as a pitcher's duel. Amber was dealing. She threw a complete game, 4 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. And on the other side, once again, New Mexico State's Carissa Donisthorpe answered her pitch for pitch with a great game of her own. So question for you, Amber. Do you think that's the best game you ever pitched, or can you think of a better one?
I mean, I think there was a game of sophomore year where I almost got a no-hitter, but the girl hit a little, like, full-on swing bunt and ruined it for me. But, I mean, the New Mexico one was pretty good, too. So, I mean, that whole game, going off of what Joanna said, the whole trust within our team was the best that I've ever experienced with any team. If I ever felt that I was struggling or anyone noticed that I may have been a slight nerve may have come to me, I can make eye contact with any person on that team and they would just look at me and be like, "You got this, you're okay." And that's what I loved about the team that we had.
And so the game is still scoreless going into the top of the 7th inning. And Jo Larios comes up to the plate. And she's in the situation that every little girl and every little boy dreams about in their backyards from the time they start playing t-ball. It's the last inning of the championship game. The score is tied. There's 2 outs, and as cliche as it sounds, the count is full. It doesn't get any more picturesque than that, except maybe if the bases were loaded and you were down by 3, right? But in this story, Jo comes to the plate. She takes a moment to herself, and if you want, you can talk a little bit more about that because I know that there's more of a story there too. But she takes a moment to herself, steps up to the plate, and sends the go-ahead run deep over the left center fence in one of the most magical moments I've ever witnessed personally. So, Jo, personally, can you tell me what was going through your mind before, during, and after?
I think just taking those deep breaths.
Wait,
No.
Isaac. Wait. I remember so fondly after the tournament, you telling Corey Costello on Roadrunner Rundown that she thought I
thought she was gonna get a pinch hitter for me.
Go ahead. Now I'll tell the story, Jo.
Yeah. Okay. So, thanks, Coach.
I think it adds it. I think what you guys are all downplaying is so much of your own coming. You know, you trusted yourself, like Jo was talking about. Jo really did. She looked at me. I remember us making eye contact before that last at bat, Jo, and she looked at me like, "Okay, you're putting a pinch hitter in." I'm like, "You're up, dude. What do you want? Like, you're up." Because of, like you said, she put in those hours of extra BP the weeks prior leading up to it. I'm like, "You're seeing the ball, Jo. You're seeing the ball well." You know, and so don't downplay that. I mean, you gotta live that up and live that moment up. And Amber, I'll be back on you in a second, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. So I mean, like Coach said, I was standing in the dugout, like ready to be on deck. I was like, okay, like when's it coming? Like, and then I got on deck, and then I can't even remember who was up before me, and it was an out. And then I just go up, and I was like, all right, it's my time now. It's like I got this. And I remember taking deep breaths, and I was like, oh, my God, my glasses are fogging. How am I going to be able to see this ball right now? And just, like, really taking it in. I was like, okay, I see the first pitch. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the ball. And I was really, like, I think the biggest thing that really changed that at bat was seeing it from the hip. Like, I was super locked in on that hip. And 3-2 count comes, and that next pitch comes, and I just see the ball so big. And I can't even, like, that just moment entirely was probably one of my proudest moments for myself. And just to be able to give that to my team, because they worked so hard for me, I'm finally giving back to them. And I just remember running around the bases, like, probably as fast as I've ever ran around the bases. And just seeing my team at home plate, that was probably one of those most magical moments for myself. And I just believed in myself, and I thank my whole team for that, because I knew they believed in me as well. I know Coach Buck believed in me, because every time I would step out of the box, we would just make eye contact. So there was no words. Like, she wouldn't say anything to me, I wouldn't say anything to her. It was just eye contact. And, you know, without even saying anything, I knew what she was thinking, and I knew what she was feeling, and I knew she believed in me. So I just went up there and was like, okay, it's my time.
Julea, what about you? When you see the ball fly off the bat, and then you're watching Joe run around the bases, and then meeting her at home plate, what was going through your mind?
That was like the best moment ever. And like, I think everyone felt that with Joe. Like, Joe felt us in the box with her. But like leading up to it, I think like right before that pitch, everyone just had this calmness like come over. It was the weirdest thing. We all just felt it, like Joe's gonna hit a home run. And like in moments like that, everyone always says that, like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you called it, whatever. But like all of us looked to each other and we're like, dude, Joe's gonna do this. Like, and she just put the most beautiful swing on it. It was almost like we saw it in slow motion. It was just amazing. And, you know, seeing the excitement in Joe's face, and we just like felt it with her. And it was, I just get chills every single time I think about it. I try to bring it up all the time at work, like just because it's just the coolest moment. Words can't even describe it, but it was just like, it seemed like slow motion.
Sydney, what about you? What was going through your mind?
I just remember we had our props, you know, we're getting crazy, and like I feel like we were that team that always thought, like, why can't we be like that team? You know, you see those teams on TV, you see them doing that, all the craziness in the dugout, and finally we were just like, we can be our own team, and we did. We bought into that, you know. But I probably held my breath that whole game. I'm not gonna lie. I was super confident in our team, but I just, yeah. And when Joe went up to bat, I remember all of us like looking at each other like, this is it. Like, Joe's going to do it. And the minute she hit that ball out, like, I think I blacked out, to be completely honest, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, she just did it. But yeah, like that feeling was just surreal. And what better person for that to happen to than Joanna? Like, honestly, it was just amazing. And to watch her around those bases and to be able to meet her at home plate, like, it was seriously the coolest feeling. And at that moment, I was like, this is it. Like, we're doing this. And I mean, I knew it from the start, but that moment I was like, all right, balls to the wall. Like, we are closing this game out. I'm like, no looking back. And it was just, yeah, it was amazing. Joe, you rock.
Absolutely. Sid, you allude to the fact that the game's not over. You know, this is not a walk-off. You still have another half inning to go. And so just to remind folks, you have a half inning to go, and you still have to stop one of the most potent offenses in the country. So, Amber, you just witnessed all of this going on. You're obviously stoked, but you're ultimately responsible to be the one to go back out there and finish the job. So when you went back out into the circle, did you feel like there was ice in your veins, or did you feel like butterflies were trying to explode out of you?
Well, I know that when Joanna had hit the home run, I was so excited. And then when we got back in, and I was like, all right, like, take a deep breath. You're going to go out there and just do everything that you've been taught to do, everything you've been working your butt off to do. And I stepped in that circle, and I'm pretty sure I took 3 deep breaths just to try to shake out all the nerves. I would literally do this with my pitching hand to try to shake out the nerves. And I just told myself, like, trust the process, trust that inside pitch, trust my pitches, because I worked hard on these pitches. Everyone's going to back up whatever they hit off of me. Nothing's going to get past this defense. And I even remember Joanna, like, doing this with her hands, like, it's okay, everything's going to be fine. And, yeah, that was a very crazy inning, made me very nervous, but that was one of the best innings of my life, I would think.
I think there was a hit. I mean, you guys talk about your defense. I think Sydney had 2 diving catches that game. We had that rundown with Julea up. You know, we had a rundown where they tried to take advantage of us, and we ran it. I mean, anybody that knows my program knows that rundowns for me are the epitome of how a team defense is going to work. And if you can run a rundown and execute a rundown, your team defense is locked down solid. That's the best way to show unity. We run it to perfection. And I can't remember what inning that was. I remember I think in that 7th, there was a ground ball up the middle. Adri Cardoza made a play on the shortstop side of second base. And, I mean, I had never witnessed something like that ever, and I've watched a lot of softball and been around a lot of great plays. That was probably one of the best plays I've ever seen. And they all thought that the girl was going to be safe at first, and the girl was kind of slowing up in the first, and Adri comes across, makes this play, and gets her out at first. And at that moment, it was like, oh, my gosh. I mean, Joanna hitting the home run, it was like, okay, we got a shot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm gonna full disclosure right now. I never celebrated Joe's home run. I was very calm and very, like, we've got a potent offense. They're known that they can do some damage. Amber was throwing up one heck of a game. In fact, I remember coming out in one inning where she got a little bit in a jam. I think you struck out their catcher again, that poor girl. I can't even think of her name right now.
With her curveball. Outside. Bases loaded.
On that game.
Yeah. And I came out to the mound that inning, and Amber looked at me like, you're not taking me out. It was the only time that year that Amber ever looked at me like, what are you doing out on the mound? Go back in the dugout. I've got this. And I said, oh, I'm just coming out here because it seemed really fun out here. I just want to see what you guys were doing. And Amber's like, what do you mean? I go, it's your game. You're dealing. Keep getting after it. So I think for so many of them, when they talk about how that defense was, there were so many great defensive plays in that game. Alex Simmons, man, that girl was lights out. Probably one of the best shortstops I've ever watched play. She was lights out. I mean, every single player, Caitlin Burton left. We had one solid defense that just Bree Pontecorva at first. I mean, every single player just knew their role and was locked in, and nothing was going to get through. And I think New Mexico State was 7th in the nation with offense that year. And they were 7th in the nation in home runs that year. And Amber and Sid held them to 0 home runs in the WAC tournament, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a huge moment. And I just think that I think back about teams I've coached, and this team really was one of the funnest teams I've ever been around because of their just grittiness. They were just gritty, flat out.
So you get to the last page of the story. You go out, Amber hits the circle, Joe goes behind the dish, and everybody else is backing her up. You get a pair of grounders, including the amazing defensive play from Adri, as you mentioned. And then the last batter, Amber strikes her out looking. Gloves fly into the air, players rush out of the dugout, and the hugging and crying commences. Sid, why don't you try to tell us, did it feel like a dream was coming true, especially with it being your senior year?
Honestly, I think I was still blacked out. I think back to that game, and kind of like how Coach said, it was really hard to celebrate because we had done that in the past. You know, we celebrated in 2015 when we beat New Mexico State, and then we still had to play them 2 more times. So it's like I was so excited, and deep down inside I'm thinking man, this is awesome, but I just kept my composure the whole game because I was like, it's not over till it's over. Even when Amber struck that girl out, I think I stood in center field for a few more seconds, oh my gosh, did that just happen? I think I was the last person in the huddle, honestly.
Nicole had to pick her up to get into the huddle.
And it didn't register but then like seeing my team celebrate, and I was just like, man, like we did that. We've worked so hard for this, and it finally happened for us. Like there was no, like our team deserved that, you know. I just can't even explain it. It was the best feeling ever. But even if you looked at me like after my diving catch, you know, I get up and I just run off the field. Like I don't have to show any emotion. Like I can't get excited about that yet because like who knows what's to come, you know. But yeah, Amber, like that, it was amazing. And to be able to end that season with you and all the other seniors, like it was a true testament to the team that we had become. It was amazing. And it was just, yeah, it was an awesome feeling.
Amber, switching over to you for a second as the other senior in this group here, what did it mean to you to close out the WAC tournament? Obviously, the season wasn't over, but what did it mean to you to close out the WAC tournament with that kind of performance and that kind of team win?
It meant everything to me because ever since I was a young girl, it was a dream of mine to pitch the last pitch, a strikeout looking, and then to jump on the catcher because I hate dog piles. So I had to make sure that I was up there so I wasn't on the bottom. So when I finally got that pitch through and she looked straight at it and Joanna came running at me, I almost had that second where I was like, oh my God, like this is really happening. And I almost forgot to throw my glove. I barely got off my hand. And then I barely made it off the floor to jump off Joanna because I forgot all of these things that I wanted to do. So that was amazing. that was an amazing day.
Yeah, and Joe, what did it look like for you from behind the dish?
To be honest, he never even called strike three before I even got up and went to Amber because I just knew it. Like, it was that perfect inside pitch right in the river where we've always, like, talked about.
River? It was not in the river. It hit the plate.
Well,
you know?
Okay, well, like, you know, whatever. Okay, whatever, Coach.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, you know, it was that perfect pitch that we wanted. And I even think it was a curveball. And her curveball was on. I think every pitch was on for Amber that game. And just feeling like, I can't even describe the feeling of what it felt like that last pitch. Just going up, I just felt that pop in my catcher's glove and running up to Amber and just like hugging her and just like, and then everybody just surrounding us at that point. Like Sydney said, I probably blacked out a couple times during that game because I think our emotions were just so high that game. And like, we've all worked for that moment, and to finally feel it and finally taste that championship was the best feeling and the most amazing feeling. And just to do it for not only ourselves, but that entire team, our fans that backed us up, our families, Jason, our training coach, like everybody. And for Brendan, like Brendan was a huge part of that year too as well, because the way he trained us and the way he got us ready just to be on that field was, I can honestly say, like, that was the year we were all locked into every part of our program. And yeah, it was amazing. Like, I can't even describe, like, I just want that for the future, for the next team, you know, like not just us, but we started it, but we also want people to keep on that legacy as well.
Coach, what about for you? You see strike three go across the plate, and what's going through your mind?
I just remember that whole last inning sitting there grinning. And like, I don't think I've ever sat through a game just smiling. Just like, I remember, you know, I swore when I was a player that I would never pray to God, but I remember praying to God at that moment saying, thank you for allowing me just to witness and be here and see these guys play at the highest level that they could compete at, that I knew that they could do as a coach. As a coach, you have a vision for your players and what you see them, their ability and who they are and who they can become. And all of those visions were becoming a reality. So I sat back that whole inning just saying, take it in, enjoy this moment, and enjoy just watching them celebrate, because it really was about them, you know, from Sid. And I mean, that senior class, we had a pact going into that that WAC tournament. We sat down. I don't know if you guys remember, but we sat down in my office, all 7 of you guys, and said, okay, we're going to have a pact. From here on out, we're being positive, no matter what happens, no matter if you strike out, no matter if you pop up. And Adri Cardozo was a big person about that. And little thing that happened in the game, Adri Cardozo has a 13 pitch at bat and walks. And as she's going down the first baseline, she's celebrating the walk. That was that senior leadership. That's what those seniors did. And it's true. Your team will go as far as your seniors take it. That senior class and Mckenzie Singer, I do not want to leave out Mckenzie Singer, because Mac was always in the bullpen warming up either Sid or Amber or Lindsay or whoever else we needed in that moment. And she was that calming force. And I say to this day that without Mckenzie Singer, that team doesn't win, because whenever they got all over the place, personally, Mac was that voice of calm, and you guys are fine. You guys are going to get it. We're going to do this. She was just a great person, and I don't want to leave her out because she was a big reason for that 2016 team winning.
And so you guys win your first ever tournament at the NCAA Division I level, sending CSUB to the NCAA tournament regionals. You get matched up with number 1 overall UCLA in their regional, a couple other tough teams, Fresno State, Cal State Fullerton, and on paper it looks like you guys are going to get washed over. But you have the opening game against UCLA, and it's 0-0 through 4 innings. And you end up losing that one, but it was a great fight. And then you put up a heck of a fight in an 8-5 loss against another really strong program, Fresno State. Amber, let me go back to you for a minute there. What was it like for you to pitch in, the national tournament against some of the best teams in the country? And, even if you didn't come out on the winning side on the scoreboard, how did it feel to do that and to represent CSUB and yourself that way?
I mean, it felt good. When I was first looking at colleges, my dad always told me, some colleges have big names, but that's all it is. It's a big name. They're just like you. They tie their shoes the same. They practice the same. And they're just like us. So that's something that I definitely thought about a lot going into that game. And I really focused on one pitch at a time, one inning at a time, just trying to zone in at just each and every little minute of that game. And I was extremely grateful to be able to play in that game and pitch and be part of CSUB for that whole entire experience.
And Julea, for you being one of the young ones in that group, what did you take from that whole experience, from winning the WAC tournament for the first time and getting to, the regionals? What did you take from that into your final 2 seasons and to sort of kind of keep driving in that direction?
Well, I think first at the championship win, it was just it's not over till it's over. You got to still pitch that last pitch and you don't ever stray from your fundamentals. So a lot of us had our little pre-pitch type of thing, talk to the same people in the same order, go through, okay, ball hit to me, where am I going? That never changes even into that last pitch that Amber threw. I'm pretty sure everyone on the team was still thinking the same thing. Okay, ball to me, where am I going? Because we're still in it. So I definitely took that on, but the regional tournament, that was kind of uncharted waters for us. And because my sophomore year, I was okay, this is my second WAC tournament. Our seniors, they've done this, we've all done this. But going into regionals, it was kind of okay, this is a first, and that's where I really even more so took to my seniors and just really followed them, because the way they went about it, it was the same exact way. It's a ball game, cool, we're in UCLA, it's a great stadium, this is great, but the game doesn't change. And so that's what I really it stuck with me, of how they kept their composure, but also just the game is the game. You keep playing it the same exact way, and it doesn't matter who your opponent is, what stadium you're in, if it's night, day. And I try to just keep doing that going into when I was an upperclassman, and just falling back on my fundamentals and trying to be a good leader, what that senior class was just amazing. So I just try to live up to them and fill their shoes and just keep it going, you know.
And for you, Coach, what was it like going back to your alma mater as the coach of a different school to face your alma mater on the biggest stage there?
I think pride has the biggest word that I could describe. Pride in the individuals that I was able to take the field with. Pride that we were accomplishing, like Julea said, uncharted territory, but it was something that we had all dreamt about. And even going into that Fresno State game, I remember we were down. We went down early in the first inning. I think we had 2 or 3 errors in the first inning, and we gave them, I think it was 3 runs. And it was the difference of the ball game. I think we lost 8-5. It was the difference of the ball game. But I remember bringing them in and saying, okay, you have an opportunity right now to either live your dream or live your nightmare. Which one do you want to do? Because right now we're living our dream. We dreamt about this. We have the ability and opportunity to do it. And I think just having, that stadium kind of holds a very close place in my heart. A lot of different reasons for a lot of different things that have happened in my life. But to share that moment with these individuals and the individuals on that team was really, really special for me, and something that I'll forever, I'll remember almost the smallest details of even the first meeting we had there, and just everything about it. I'll remember just how they took BP. Like they said, they took BP the same way that they took BP throughout the WAC tournament. They didn't let them, you would never have known it was their first ever regional. And most teams that go to regional with the record that we had would get blown out, and they would get run ruled easy. This team, no, they gave a run for their money to UCLA. I think it took UCLA 4.5 innings to get their first hit. It was a 0-0 ball game, and the first hit was a little dinker over the first baseman's head. So, I mean, even Fresno State, we set them up to actually lose the next game. So we knocked their All-American pitcher out of the game that game. And it was things like that I just can remember and really vividly remember that season.
And Coach, as we wrap up our time here, can you reflect back on the 2016 squad and can you name a thing or two that you think that they sort of cemented into your program that has lasted on to today?
They're the team that I do. I'll refer back to a lot with our teams, and they've all hit on it tonight. They've all hit on what that trust meant, what that buy-in meant, what it meant to believe in themselves. Julea literally emerged into a leader after that year, her junior and senior year. She did. She took what they taught her and she ran with it. But there was just, I don't have one or two things because they really, I would say, if you want to, if you ever want to have the blueprint for coaching, it would have been coaching these individuals on how you see them develop and grow as people. And, we started off talking about how they're all essential workers. It's pride. They brought pride to CSUB. They brought, like Sydney and Amber touched on, why can't it be us? Why can't it be CSUB? Because we had never gone there. We had never done anything like that. And everyone told us how we couldn't do it and tells us why we can't make it. We're a small school, this and that. They bring pride to CSUB, and not just on the field, but off the field as well.
Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us today and reliving this memory together with me. That's all the time we got for tonight, but so everybody just stay safe out there, especially in the workforce for you ladies. Sydney, good luck with your final classes. And for all of you, don't be strangers around the Roadrunner softball complex. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.